Hey, everybody. Happy Thursday. I'm so glad you guys joined me tonight. I would love for you to drop your names in the chat. Tell me where you're from. I always find it so interesting to kind of find out where everybody is tuning in from. And to be quite honest, tell me if it's raining where you are because it's raining outside. It's been pouring rain in Georgia for what feels like an eternity. If you're a Georgia local, I have to think that you feel like I do, and I'm just kind of over it. This has been the rainiest, coldest winter that I remember, and I've lived here for 40 years. So if it's not raining wherever you guys are, maybe I should come for a visit. I don't know. But let's dive in. I appreciate you guys tuning in. We're just going to talk about our home prices making Georgia unaffordable. This is a conversation that I've been having so much recently with different people. I think a lot of it stems the conversation from obviously the past 2 years, and taxes here in Georgia came out in October, and a lot of people had some things to say about their new tax bill because obviously with price increases comes reassessments, and that leads to higher taxes sometimes. Some people had higher tax assessments, some people's stayed the same. I've been having the conversation a lot that did you know that you can go to the county that you live in and appeal. So a lot of people didn't know that you can actually appeal your taxes. So that's a conversation that we've been having a lot with people. If that's something that you're interested in or want to know more about, definitely reach out to me. My email and all of our information is in the chat down below. But reach out to me because a lot of times you might need a CMA or something like that, and we can put that together for you so that you can go online and do that appeal, or you can take it into the tax office. But why go in when you can just do it online? But so, yeah, what do you guys think? Drop me a comment. Do you think that Georgia is becoming unaffordable? The last 2 years, we've had a lot of people moving in from out of state. That has done a lot of economic growth for the state. It also has driven prices higher. But, there's a lot of different information that I have here. Number one, if we look at kind of where we came from 2 years ago to where we are now, it's a very different ballgame right out of the gate. As soon as the pandemic kind of lifted, all of the, can't go out, quarantine, all of that good stuff, the real estate market just went off with a bang. And it was just kind of like a rat race ever since. And so many people are talking about, are we going to see a crash? Are we going to see a slowdown? What's going to happen? And quite frankly, I do think we're going to see a slowdown. We've already seen a slowdown. It started in July of 2022 and has continued. But let me share some information with you guys. So if you look at this article here, so Money Magazine, Atlanta is the best place to live. They talked about 25 years and counting. And if you have come across in those years, you know that Atlanta is very different. It talks about diversity. Um, it talks about all of the job offers that are here, the companies that have moved here. It talks about some of the best colleges. It also talks about all of the sports. So that is one of the things that I found it very interesting that we were ranked one of the top places to live. I think sometimes because I live here and because I've grown up here, I'm a little bit naive to the fact that so many people want to be here. I'm, I guess, spoiled a little bit, right? Because I love everything about the state, but I figure it's because this is my home state. This is my hometown. I love the trees. I love the accessibility to different places. Actually, tomorrow is my husband's 40th birthday, and we're going to be heading to the mountains or to the beach. There's just so many places that you can get to very quickly, and I am spoiled with that, very much so. And it sounds like a lot of other people love that as well. So it's not a surprise, but it is a surprise that we're ranked number 6. But that obviously does not always help with affordability because that's just driving more people here. So I really wanted to dig deeper because I keep hearing this from people that, Georgia's not affordable anymore. So I started looking into it. And if you look here, and one of the things that I want to tell you guys, because Obviously, I watch news outlets. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Zillow. I'm on CNN. I hear all of these, although I try to stay off CNN because Jesus, it's just, it'll stress you out. I just feel like it's all about negativity, and they're talking about all of the numbers and that housing is plummeting, housing is just crashing and it's going down, and we're seeing these numbers recess in some areas. In some areas, we definitely are. But make sure that you're doing your research. When you hear that, that's a national level. That's a national number. And in places like Houston, Texas, Phoenix, Arizona, different places in California, they are seeing recessions come in as far as housing pricing. They're looking at maybe a 10 to 15% slowdown. So that is a fact there. But in Georgia, we have seen a slowdown, but we haven't seen a plummet. We have seen houses plateau. We've seen negotiations on, closing costs, but that's a normal market. If you think about 2019, 2018, you made an offer and maybe you asked for a little bit less. They might have taken it, they might not have, but they negotiated and they came back. Maybe you asked for closing costs, or maybe you had an inspection and then you found some things in that inspection. And so we went back to them and we're like, hey, we're going to need you to take care of these things. And we worked out a deal. We're back to that, which in my opinion is what real estate really is. This is my 18th year and I've never seen what I saw the last couple of years. And you know what? Fingers crossed I never do again, to be honest, because it was just a whirlwind. It wasn't fun anymore. The journey of getting there is half the fun. And when it was a whirlwind of like, hey, do you want this house? Great, sign here. It's not fun. So something else that I was looking at here, though, Metro Atlanta CEO, Georgia is rated the sixth most affordable state in the US. Sixth most affordable state. Do you guys agree with that? That we are voted the sixth most affordable state? Um, I pulled some different numbers, was looking at some different things, and I saw conflicting numbers really on another one. But given this article was back, this one that I just showed you was current. The one that I looked at before was from 2021, and we were 13th on the list. So still relative in the grand scheme of things, 13th out of 50 states, we were 13th most affordable. That's still pretty dang good. Places like Hawaii, I don't know how y'all afford anything. Places like California and New York, I understand why y'all moved here. When I'm looking at those numbers, if you're not making 350 or more, you're barely affording an apartment. So in that grand scheme, I do have to look at Georgia's affordability. And while home prices have risen the last couple of years, comparatively, we're still grossly affordable. I just did this video the other day. I don't know if you guys checked it out yet, but it was talking about Swanee home prices because that's personally where I live, and not just home prices, but affordability altogether. Because I've been looking at some of my bills and having to do an assessment of, do we cut out anything? One of the things that my husband and I joke about, but it just pisses me off, y'all, the cable bill. Do y'all have this issue? The cable bill has gone up substantially more than anything else. My gas bill, it's gone up a little. Water's exactly the same. My electric bill, a little. Here in Gwinnett County, where I live, the trash is part of my taxes because I live in Gwinnett County. All of Gwinnett County, well, I shouldn't say all, because if you're in some cities like Beaufort City, Sugar Hill, places like that, city of Swanee, like in the city limits, that's different. But in Gwinnett County, they actually take care of your trash bill. So all of those things gone up a little bit, nothing like my cable and internet. So I'm looking at, YouTube TV, Apple TV, what are some of the other ones that I've seen? The Roku, all of these things, right? And I thought that they were going to be extremely affordable, and I was just going to cut my bill in half. I'm going to pay for internet only, and then I'm going to stream all of these other things. We already pay for Netflix, Disney Plus, we've got the kids, of course, they're on Disney, but it's not really that much cheaper to do any of those other things. And so I realized that everything has just increased across the board. I'm paying like $175 to $180 a month for freaking cable and internet. So drop me a chat here. Do you guys feel like things have gone up in the utilities area? Have you been seeing major increases? What have you done to counterbalance that? A lot of people right now are talking about making changes this year because of the talks of a recession, because of reeling things in a little bit. And I mean, I can't cut internet. I need internet. I could cut cable. I don't think I want to, but I could. So looking at affordability altogether, I feel like everything has just gone up across the nation. So in Georgia's affordability, I still think that Georgia is a great place. Some of the other areas like North Carolina, South Carolina, they are a little bit lower than us when it comes to housing prices. But the difference is they do not have the job opportunities that Georgia has. Um, ATAC, look at y'all. Absolutely seems like cable and internet just keeps going up. Thank you. Somebody agrees with me. I wholeheartedly feel like they're just robbing us. And there's nothing they can do because I have a monopoly here. I can't go to somebody else. Um, but talking about jobs, there's so many job opportunities here. Last couple of years, we had Microsoft come, we had Google, we had Facebook. The builders have really gotten big again. A lot of building going on in Georgia. Some of the places that people don't really pay attention to are places like Augusta. Then in South Georgia, you've got the Army base. So there's a lot of little places. I know Kia is building their factory here. Porsche built a factory here. You have a lot of big players here. And that's why a lot of people come to Georgia and Atlanta because, yes, we are growing, but the job opportunities here are endless. They really are. We have some of the best taxes throughout the country for housing. For residential housing, we have homestead exemption where you get a break on your taxes. We also have really great taxes when it comes to businesses. So a lot of entrepreneurs come here to start businesses because of the tax breaks. It's cheaper to run a business here. That speaks volumes. So in my opinion, yes, housing has gone up, but there is still so much to counterbalance that I still feel like Georgia is a very affordable option. I love South Carolina, North Carolina. Those are other great places. I know we have a client right now that they're actually looking in Greenville and they're looking in Flowery Branch. They're kind of going back and forth between South Carolina and Georgia. I have a great friend of mine. She actually started out as a neighbor. She was renting the house next to me when I lived in Flowery Branch. We got to know each other. They were from Greenville, and her husband had accepted a job here. And so they've lived here, gosh, 12 years now. And they recently had the opportunity to go back, and they ended up choosing to stay because they just have grown to love it here. But she said it is so similar. Greenville and Georgia are very similar. Lots of natural trees, the green grass, which that's something I guess again I take advantage of. I've never thought of not having green grass outside, but there's a lot of places that it's all concrete or it's desert sand. And so when they come here and they see the trees and they see the grass, and I will say Atlanta, I have to really respect Atlanta, the city of Atlanta, because they have tried really, really hard to keep the downtown area. Yes, there's concrete everywhere, there's buildings everywhere, skyscrapers everywhere. It's a huge city. We've got, God, our airport alone is like a city. But they have done a really great job of trying to keep the trees and grasses and parks and things even in the city. Piedmont Park, if you ever get an opportunity to go there, is absolutely beautiful. And it's right there in the middle of the city. So I have to compliment them on what they've done. But there are so many job opportunities that coming here, I feel like has made it affordable because housing has increased over the last 2 years. However, with the job opportunities, it kind of counterbalances everything. I was going to kind of share with you guys here. If we look at these numbers, this is for all of Georgia. You can see the increase here. But then if we stop over here, you can see that right back here, we kind of went up, but then we dipped back down. So this right here, you're looking at about June, July of last year when we were peaking out. We were kind of plateauing, if you will. And then we just started to come down from there. And the great thing is, though, we started over here. If we look at that, that is a huge difference. That is a huge, massive difference. And it would take a lot for us to drop. It would take about 20% reduction for us to see those numbers again. And the reality of it is, nobody has predicted a 20% decrease. Nobody. If you look at all of, Zillow, Trulia, if you guys watched my video a couple weeks ago, I went over all of that in detail. Realtor.com, Zillow.com, National Association of Realtors. Lawrence Yun is a guy that I listen to constantly because he is one of those that when he speaks, he knows what he's talking about. Nobody has predicted that much of a decrease. They have said that there could be in certain markets a reduction in prices, and we're seeing that. We're seeing that across the board. I'm not saying that Georgia hasn't seen that. We definitely have. A lot of what we're seeing, though, is national, like I said before. And so I was going to pull up, if you look at, this is Swanee specifically, because that's, like I said, the area that I live. And if you look at this, it was all over the place, these jumps. And then this just continued to increase. This was in 2021. It was that massive growth. And then again, beginning of 2022, things kind of plateaued for a little bit in like November, December 2021. And then we hit 2022. And the funny thing was, in 2022, I really thought, okay, we're back to a normal market. And then all of a sudden, bam, out of the cuff we came. And it was just crazy. It was crazy all over again. But then you can see here, we've had those decreases again. And so we've kind of, if you look here, we've kind of plateaued. So we dropped down and we're seeing that plateau. And the great thing is, truth be told, and I know a lot of realtors, I might get shot in the foot for this, but it needed to happen. It needed to happen. There was no way that we could increase at those rates and continue to increase at those rates. So just so you guys know, Georgia rises at about 4 to 5%, 4 to 6% on a normal year as far as our equity gains. So with us rising 17% in a year, that's like 4 years worth of equity in 1 year's time. And so people are complaining about the reduction, and people are complaining about, oh, home prices going down. Are you really losing that much? I mean, if you gained 4 years worth of equity in 1 year, and let's say we slid 5%, which are you really losing that much? You still have already gained more. So now what, you gained 3 years instead of 4 in 1 year? It's all relative. And so again, I would love for you guys to hit up the chat. Tell me what you think about affordability. I feel like it definitely is to interpretation. I feel like people that live here in Georgia, it's been a much bigger shock than the people that are moving into Georgia, because a lot of people are moving in from states that are less affordable. And when they come here, Georgia is a great opportunity for them. And so people that live here already, watching the market increase as it has been a shocker. It has. But the great thing is, you're able to sell at a higher price, which is then catapulting you to be able to see things larger. Hey, Anthony, I'm so glad you joined. Are you seeing sellers accepting the price? Let's see. Accepting the price reduction or still stubborn to last year numbers? No, you know what? That's a great question, Anthony. And we actually have seen a lot of sellers accepting those price reductions. We've actually seen some sellers, as far as, it's twofold, right? Because we've had some people that listed, like, we'll say July timeframe of last year. I actually had a listing. We listed July 1st, and I told him market is shifting. And he's like, oh, but it's been so great. It's been so great. It's going to come back. And I was like, I don't think so. I think we're at the end. I think we're just, it's over. And he wanted to list top dollar no matter what. And I said, that's fine. But in 30 days, if we haven't had any traffic, we have to have a conversation. And in 30 days, we had to have a conversation because he was listing based on what numbers were, not what numbers are and we're going to be moving forward. And I think a lot of sellers had to have those coming to Jesus meetings, right? Because they had watched the market for the last 18 to 24 months and we're like, oh, I'm going to throw it on the market. It's going to be gone in a day. No, my friend, those times are over. And so we sometimes are seeing reductions before we even get an offer. But then a lot of times, if it's been on the market, 20, 30 days, and we go out and take a look at it, and you make a lower offer, we are seeing the negotiations open back up. We are seeing, if you make an offer, we at least get a counter offer. We weren't seeing that for a while. So we're at least getting that counter offer and they are coming off the price some. So then maybe we go back with a counter offer and we're meeting in the middle again, right? That's the fun part of real estate, not well, I guess I just got to give them my firstborn along with what they asked for. So yes, Anthony, we are seeing a shift in that and it's exciting. The other thing we've seen, we actually just had one where the home tested positive for radon, which that's something that's actually quite common here in Georgia because granite is a stone here that's very, very popular, hence Stone Mountain. We have a lot of rock quarries and things like that. So it's not uncommon to have a home that will test positive for radon. I think some people get totally freaked out. You get a radon mitigation system put in and it takes care of everything. So we had a home recently that tested positive for radon. We went back to the sellers and we're like, hey, this radon system is going to be about $3,000. And they were like, no problem. They had the radon system put in for us. And they also, instead of doing a couple of the repairs that needed to be done, they were already moving to Chicago. So they were like, can we just give you about $2,000 and you take care of the repairs after the fact, which in my opinion is honestly the best way to go anyways, just for the simple fact of, you never know the work that they're going to have done. We always put in the special stipulations that we want it to be done by a licensed plumber or a licensed electrician, licensed contractor, and we try and get those receipts. But I, a lot of times, would rather have my own people going in so I know the work that's being done. I can ask questions. I can stand there. And so it's great to be able to see we're having those inspections. We're extending due diligence because we have questions, then we want to call out a roofer or something like that. So it's exciting to see where the market has shifted. We're just back to what I remember as a stabilized market, like very similar to 2019. It feels very similar to 2019. One of the things that I've noticed though, I don't know if you guys caught it in the last video that I was talking about. Actually, it was 2 videos ago in the talking about Zillow, Realtor.com, NAR, National Association of Realtors. They were talking about we're going to see 7% interest for quite some time. And then maybe by the end of the year, we'll see 6%. Well, I don't know if you guys have taken a look here recently, but we're already in the sixes now and it's January. So they're talking about by the end of 2023, literally within 20 days of them giving their predictions, we're already in the sixes. So, it's so crazy because you look at these predictions and sometimes I really do agree with them. And sometimes I think they're a little far-fetched. I'm hoping, you guys, I really am hoping that this is a sign that we're going to be maybe in the fives by the end of the year. Because if we're already back in the sixes and they predicted that was going to be at the end of the year and we're already there in the first month, I'm hoping that that's a sign that we are continuing to go down that path. Where that gets tricky is because if interest rates start to go back down, then buyers come back out. And so people say, well, I'm trying to time the market. Well, how do you do that? How do you do that? Because right now there's more affordability because there's not as many people out there. Sellers are more excited to get their homes sold because there are not multiple offers, because they're not getting over asking price. So there's more people that are, more sellers that are willing to sell and negotiate. But your interest rate is a little bit higher right now. So if you wait, you're like, well, if you think we're going to be at 5% later on, I'm just going to wait till then. Okay, so you wait till 5%. Well, now there's more buyers because everybody wants 5%, right? So I firmly believe you cannot time the market. There is no perfect time to buy, because if you wait for prices to go down, well, then everybody's coming out. If you wait for interest rates to come down, everybody's coming out. If you buy when nobody's out, well, then you're paying maybe a little bit more in your interest. So, you know, Anthony, going back to you, you and I have been playing with these numbers for a while, right? Like watching the Fed, they feel like they've gotten inflation under control per their, last little talk there. And they've not been doing the hikes as much that we've been seeing. For a while there, it was like, Lord Jesus, hold on to your hats. What are they doing? They're making increases, felt like every week. And we haven't seen as much of that. So, you know, I feel like Georgia is still a great affordable place. I will say that some cities are much more affordable than others. Um, we actually have a video coming out in a couple of weeks that talks about the 5 most affordable cities. Augusta is on the radar as being one of the number 1 cities to watch in Georgia this year because of affordability. And people sleep on Augusta. People sleep on Augusta. They don't pay attention to it because it's right on that South Carolina line. I mean, right on the line. You can literally be in South Carolina in like no time. But it's not terribly far from Atlanta. It's about 2 hours. So if you're needing to commute regularly, that probably would not be a good option. But if you're working remote, or if you're, not coming into the city often, Augusta is a great place to look. There are some new job opportunities out there. There are a lot of housing, being built. If you're an investor, I'm watching Augusta personally. So it would definitely be something that I would encourage you to take a look at. Anthony, Mortgage News Daily was showing average rates at 5.9 today. That's what I'm talking about. Number one, y'all, Anthony is one of the greatest. I love talking to this man because he started out as potential client looking at buying. Anthony is one of those that I can talk to, and he and I will just nerd out. It's what it is. I don't have many clients that nerd out on things like this, mortgage rates, watching the Fed, as much as I do because I'm in the business, but Anthony does. And I love it because he and I can sit there and have these great conversations because he watches it and then we talk about it. So I love that, Anthony. 5.9. So how earlier this month were they predicting, oh, we might see getting into the 6s by the end of 2023? That's why I say you have to listen to their predictions, listen to CNN and what they're saying with a grain of salt. Okay, thank you, Mr. CNN. I'll keep that implanted somewhere, but their predictions are just that. They don't have a crystal ball. I don't have a crystal ball. I think that we're going to really start to see things coming back. But the thing is, I really think that we're starting to be at the bottom. ATAC, do you think we will ever see the rates back down in the 3s? Ooh, this is a great one, right? No, I don't. I don't. Maybe one day, not anytime in the near future. If we get back into the 5s, low 5s, we are at a good rate. Because if you think back at 2019, 2018, rates were 4.5, and that was considered like a fantastic rate. Because if you look at history, we were hovering in like the 8% to 15% for like a decade. That was massive. Those were massive rates. I cannot imagine paying those rates. But I know when I bought my first home, our rate was at like 6.75. And I was like, well, whatever. But that was 15 years ago. I think as long as we get back into the 5s, we're doing well, Anthony. It's the accountant in me, love data and analytics. And I love that you love it because I have somebody to sit there and nerd out with, and it's considered okay. So I don't know. I think that as long as we're in the 5s, we're doing really good. And I think that the fact that the feds have said, we feel like we've got things back under control. If you look at the job market, the unemployment rate is still very good. I hate that we have an unemployment rate at all, but let's face it, we're always going to have some sort of numbers on that data chart. And the fact that we are still extremely low, thinking of everything that we've been through the last couple of years, the fact that we are still extremely low when it comes to the unemployment rate is huge. And this is something I wanted to share with you guys. I just thought about it. I'm transparent, right? A lot of you that have gotten to know me, I'm very unapologetic, just very transparent. I'm going to tell you like it is, whether it's good, bad, ugly. And sometimes other realtors get irritated with me because I'm just going to say what I have to say. And I'm going to share this with you because I think that it would be great for you guys to look at foreclosures.com. Foreclosures.com. This is a site that you can go to. It's going to ask you to sign up, but you don't have to sign up, because if you do, you can put your email address in. But then if you actually sign up, then it's going to ask you to pay. You don't have to pay for it, because you're only wanting to pay for it if you're actually wanting to make a bid on something, right? But I think going onto foreclosures.com and you create a little, login, it will show you the foreclosures that are in our state. It will show you new foreclosures that come out. And if you take a look, of course, Georgia has the foreclosures. We always do. That's what people don't realize. We always have foreclosures. But the foreclosures across the state, I think right now only account for like a couple percent of the entire state. And so realistically, I know people are kind of holding on saying, well, maybe we'll get some foreclosures coming out. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. There are so many entities that are still waiting for those foreclosures to hit the market, and then they scoop them up. Although I will say, people like Open Door, and if you live in Georgia, you know of Open Door. That's one of the companies that I loathe. 2021, 2022, they were part of the problem. They were a huge part of the problem. They bought up 33% of inventory in 2021. So you want to talk about affordable housing. They were messing it up. They were a corporate entity with pockets full of cash, buying up everything that they could, especially the lower price properties, which those are the people that need affordable housing more than anything. And they're just scooping it up. Not doing so good these days, having to sell off those little properties. So, by no means do I think that they're going to be doing any foreclosures. However, they are doing some negotiating, which a couple of years ago they would have no part of. And recently, I actually showed an Open Door property. One of my clients bought the property. We had an inspection done, and there were definitely some things that needed to be taken care of. It wasn't anything that was detrimental. Some people think, oh, well, if it's Open Door, it's a crappy property. That's not the case. Sometimes it is. A lot of times it's not. So it's a really, really good house. And in this case, it was a great house. But there were a couple of things that really needed to be taken care of. And we ended up negotiating $10,000 back from Open Door. They gave it back to us in closing costs. And I like doing it in closing costs because of the simple fact, think about the math. If you're buying, let's say, a $300,000 house, and they take it off the price, so now you're paying a $290,000 mortgage compared to $300,000. That doesn't change your monthly payment drastically, right? But $10,000 staying in your pocket at closing, that's huge. So especially if you're looking at this house like, hey, I'm going to be here 5 to 7 years, that $10,000 in your pocket is way better than $10,000 off the price, because it's not changing your monthly. You would have to stay in that house for 10 years at least to make that money back. So I always say get it in closing costs. But so Open Door negotiated with us, and they did give us that money. So that way, as soon as my client closed, he was able to call in some contractors, his contractors, get some things taken care of. And they've been able to totally bring this house back to life, take care of the things that needed to be taken care of. They're actually from Florida. They were in a horrible HOA situation. They got up here, and he has been working nonstop on that house, y'all. It just makes me so excited to see a family be able to get back into something, things that were more affordable. We were able to negotiate on their behalf, and that is what is exciting. That's what is making me happy about the market that we're in. So I do think that we're getting close to being at what I'm going to call the bottom, because when we start to see those interest rates coming back down, and like Anthony just said, seeing them at 5.9, that's when people start to come out. And in Georgia, like I said at the very beginning of this, I've lived in Georgia for 40 years. I think this is the rainiest, coldest, most annoying winter of my entire living here. I'm ready for summer. I'm a summer person anyways. I don't know about you guys. Is anybody else ready for just like spring and sunshine? And I just need some sun, some warmth outside. But when we start seeing that is when our spring market kind of picks up. Usually March, April is when Georgia's market starts to pick up. By June, July, it's a free for all. We historically see it taper off in August because August is when school starts back here in Georgia. We start back really early compared to a lot of places. We start back the very beginning of August. I think last year it was August 5th, but we also get out a little bit earlier. I know a lot of people that are moving here, they struggle because they're getting out late June and then they're moving here. Their kids have like a month off, right? And then they got to go back to school. Poor kids. Because we get out usually like the end of May, maybe middle of May. And so we have a couple of months off and then we go back early August. And so that month of August is historically pretty quiet for Georgia because a lot of people are just trying to get back in the swing of things. And then, September kind of quiet, October, November, December usually kind of picks back up. But we're heading into our busier months anyways. And then for interest rates to be going back down, I'm definitely excited to see, where we're going with that. So I'm going to wrap it up. I've been talking to you guys for the longest, so I appreciate you tuning in tonight. Oh, hey, Joe. Hey. Yes. Well, what's the weather like where you are? Because I'm thinking that it's not so great here because I'm freezing. But I guess realistically where you are, it's probably like actually cold. And here I think we're at like 45, which grand scheme of things probably isn't that cold. It's just the rain. We've never had this much rain before. It's been such a rainy winter and I'm so done with it. I cannot stand the rain and the cold. I need one or the other. So I appreciate you guys. I will see you next Thursday at 6 o'clock. Make sure you guys tune in. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys then.